Welcome. Come in. Don't be scared. At least, not yet. Before we... Oh, I better get that. Just a second. TPC here.
Hello, old friend. It's been quite a while since we last talked.
I thought you'd be collecting souls during this witching hour.
Well, I heard you started a little business for yourself, and I figured I'd, lend a hand.
I'll take it, if it's the right one. The hand, I mean.
Or perhaps a story.
A story?
Why, yes, an original story, in fact. How does that sound?
Why, yes.
The story is about an intern who meets a very peculiar doctor. Or more specifically, peculiar corpses. You see, our main character, Vaughn, thinks it's just an internship. But it's something much, much more sinister. So, would you like to add this to your collection?
It sounds like a ghoulishly good tale. What if my guests wanted to hear more from you? Where would they find you?
That would be simply marvelous. I actually run a small YouTube channel as a small, creative outlet. You can find my narrations at youtube.com/c/SirAim. So, now that we have the necessary plugging out of the way, how about we tell a story?
Splendid idea. I'll have to come visit you again soon. Only next time, make sure dinner doesn't run away.
Oh, don't worry about that. We'll just make sure to start at the legs next time.
Ciao. Gather round. Look into the light. Look. Look deep. Open your imagination and listen to the story called What Stays Below.
You ever seen a dead body before? Vaughn eyed the man across the desk and tried to figure out if the guy was joking. The question was childish, borderline inane given the circumstances, and a dozen idiotic responses skipped through his head. He quashed them.
My focus is forensic analysis. Over the past 3 years, I've studied trauma and disease in all manner of horrible circumstance. So yes, Dr. Thewlis, I have seen a dead body, quite a few of them.
Oh, I know you've seen them on the table. My question is, have you ever seen one in the real world?
Doctor, I can assure you the university...
That's not what I asked, is it? What I want to know is if you've ever seen a stiff before it's been cleaned up, before the coroner has a chance to wipe it down and hide the good parts. Vaughn paused, staring at the strange little man in front of him. He could feel the walls of the cheap cream-colored office getting smaller, could feel the creak of the old chair beneath him. He'd heard stories about Mercy General's head of pathology, but he had never believed them. Not until now. He loosened his collar.
I've never been to a crime scene, if that's what you're asking.
What do you know about the wreck?
Just what the dean told me. A bus went over the Waxahachie Bridge, is that right?
Go on.
It hit a patch of ice, veered into the oncoming lane, got hit by a pickup, 6 dead in the initial crash, 3 from the drop, another 6 when the truck...
8. The count is 17 now.
17.
Vaughn whispered. He'd never heard of anything so grisly. Worst highway accident in Franklin County since 1922. And the coroner dropped him all right here in my basement. Lot of damn work to do, son.
Listen, Doctor. I know you have concerns about my experience, but I can assure you...
Do you know what I spent the morning doing, boy? There were 3 kids in that wreck. They brought me 3 heads, 2 torsos, and 10 little limbs. I have no idea what happened to the rest, but I had to match them up by correlating skull diameter with limb length. I'm sure you had a nice ride over on the train, but I spent the morning playing Mr. Potato Head with body parts, and I still don't know why they sent you. He paused, waiting to see if the younger man would give him lip. There was something else in that look, too, something Vaughn couldn't place. And then it hit him.
He's enjoying this. He's dangling the details in front of me like a booger in front of the class flirt, and he's hoping I'll squirm. That sounds terrible.
You have kids, boy?
No,
Well, my daughter's 15. When she was 3, she used to tear the heads off of her Barbies and put them back wrong. The white one on the colored girl. Beach Barbie on the man body. That's what this job is, boy. I hope you can do it a lot better than she did, God rest her. Didn't even know her own people when she was young. Vaughn winced, wondering what kind of redneck backwater time machine he'd climb into this morning. He swallowed hard.
The dean called because he thought I could help. The memorial is tomorrow, Doctor, and you're running out of time.
I know that. Thewlis picked a manila envelope off of his desk and glanced at it perfunctorily. Chad Vaughn, 3rd year at SUNY. Did your undergrad work at NYU, yada yada yada. Says here your average is a C-. Is that right?
It's improving.
Guess your family must be friends with the dean. What are you doing here, boy?
Like Dean Taylor said, I was hoping to intern over the holidays. If you like my work, I'd like to apply for residency when I graduate.
But why here?
Mercy General has a great reputation, a chance for me to...
Don't waste my time, son. Why are you really here? Vaughn thought about expanding on the lie, but took stock of his chances and thought they were about 0.
My girlfriend lives in the Reach. We're hoping to move in together after graduation.
What'd she look like? Vaughn bit back the insane urge to shout.
Well, Doc, she's a colored girl. How do you like that, you racist prick?
Instead, he said,
I don't know. Dark hair, kinda tall. Why?
Just wondering if she's worth it. The man smiled, but like everything else about him, it was strange. It was part simper, part childish malevolence, as if he were a 9-year-old with the devil on his shoulder.
Well, I love her.
And you thought showing up now would improve your chances for a residency. That way you two can live like little lovebirds, and you won't have to take a train into the city every day. Is that about the song and dance of it? Vaughn shrugged. Well, it won't.
Won't what?
Improve your chances.
What will?
The smile disappeared. I tell you what, you get through the next 24 hours without pining, puking, or running, or getting in my way. That's the important part. I might think about taking you on. Deal? Vaughn stared at him.
It's a deal.
You don't ask questions, you do what I say, and you never deviate from my instructions. Is that clear?
Yes, of course.
I took on an assistant 10 years ago, and it didn't work out. She didn't do what I said. That's not going to be you, is it?
No, Doctor.
Then get dressed. Thewlis retrieved a pair of gowns, gloves, and masks from a nearby cabinet, then tossed him a set. Vaughn stripped off his jacket and shimmied into his new raiment, feeling more anxious than ever. He thought he was home free until the older man looked down and saw his shoes for the first time. His vintage red Vans were Vaughn's one conceit, a fashion statement he had adopted during his first year of college. They stood in high contrast to his slacks. You'll want to get a pair of boots. Where'd you get those? The clown store?
I will. Replace them, I mean.
Vaughn said, feeling his face flush. He was already rethinking his plans. Dunham's Reach was a quiet town, and when people died, they usually died quietly. After the accident was cleaned up, he had figured he could coast through the internship, hopefully coast through a residency. Vaughn wasn't afraid of hard work, but he didn't understand why some people went out of their way to seek it out. When a perfectly good opportunity presented itself, a smart man took advantage of it. An hour ago, he had thought this was one of those opportunities. Now, he couldn't imagine putting up with Thewlis for another 3 hours, let alone 3 years. The guy was just too goddamn weird.
Well, I don't have all day.
Do I need to sign a...
But Thewlis was already out the door, leaving Vaughn to catch up. At mid-morning, the first floor of the hospital was alight with activity, but no one stopped the two of them. No one even said hello. Thewlis led Vaughn to a dark recess in the corner of the building, a stairwell that looked like a janitor's closet from the outside. When Vaughn stepped through, however, he did a double take. The stairs descended into an Escher-like maze, a square jungle gym of gray-green concrete leading down for untold floors. It was impossible to tell how far they went.
Used to be a fallout shelter. Whole place was built at the start of the Cold War. We used to run drills down here back in the paranoia days. She's airtight. Nothing gets into this place, nothing gets out. At least not without this.
He brandished a keychain on his neck, an archaic-looking iron band with metal links.
What stays below, stays below.
2 minutes later, or it may have been 10, Vaughn had lost all track of time. They finally reached the bottom, and Vaughn found himself confronting a rusted bank vault of a door. Thewlis used the key to open it, then slipped the chain back around his neck and beckoned. On the other side, Vaughn found himself face to face with the security desk. A large, chalky man in a blue uniform stared back, picking his teeth.
Hello, Miles. This is... what do I call you, boy?
My friends call me Vaughn.
What does your mother call you?
Chadwick.
Then we'll stick with that. Miles, this is Chadwick. Say hello.
The big man looked at Vaughn, grunted, then went right back to picking his teeth. He looked like he could crush a man's head between his hands, if only it weren't such a bother. Gives new meaning to the phrase melting in your chair, Vaughn thought. He didn't see Miles as a kindred spirit, not exactly, but he thought the man had a pretty good gig sitting at a desk guarding stiffs. He did notice one detail that gave him pause, however, and when they were out of earshot, he turned to Thewlis.
Does he get much use out of that automatic? The guards upstairs aren't armed.
What did I say about asking questions?
Sorry,
Thewlis pushed ahead, and again, Vaughn found himself jogging to catch up. They passed an old service lift on the left. The doctor raised an eyebrow, daring the younger man to complain about the trek down the stairs, but Vaughn could only shake his head. He followed his new master around the bend to a door marked Morgue. When Thewlis opened it, a wave of fetid, rotten air nearly blew him backwards.
Jesus! Oh!
The doctor smiled, that devil's grin that was somehow both taunting and self-conscious.
The refrigeration unit is older than you, boy. You want to write the mayor, or should we go on in?
Grudgingly, Vaughn pulled up his mask and stepped past him. The air inside was cold, maybe 40 degrees or a little cooler, but not enough to prevent decay. Even this deep underground, a handful of flies had found the cadavers, and they buzzed in pockets around the room. Vaughn counted 10 metal tables, all of them occupied.
DRTTTs. Dead right there, and there.
One table held nothing but arms stacked in a neat pyramid. Another, legs. A few of them had half-assembled cadavers, with the pieces placed in only the vaguest verisimilitude of a human shape. In their early decay, they looked more like mannequins than people. Vaughn had a legendary constitution amongst his peers, but he took a step backwards then, feeling coffee and an hours-old donut creep halfway up his throat. Upstairs, he had believed everything Thewlis had told him was hyperbole.
There's only 5 here. 9 are in storage in the back drawers, and I've cremated 3. Almost all the remaining families have asked for cremation as well, so there's still a good bit of work ahead. That's where you come in.
He looked over to see if his new protege had any questions, and again, Vaughn had the image of the man dangling a booger.
Expediency is the word. We can't send every chunk and toe to the DNA lab. You find 5 fingers with blue nail polish, that means they belong to the same girl. You find a hairy foot, chances are it fits a hairy leg. Do you understand?
Vaughn nodded. On some level, he was appalled by the process, but he was also aware of the time pressure. It wasn't just the memorial either. The bodies were decaying, and the longer this lasted, the more difficult and grotesque the work would become. In the city, the medical examiner would have a handful of doctors and half a dozen lab techs at his disposal, and they would have 2 weeks to get things sorted.
You asked for a small-town job, and you got it. Oh boy, did you ever. Doctor, forgive me for asking this, but I've seen accident victims before. This is too extreme, given what the dean told me.
The bus was crushed. You'd be surprised what jagged metal and rocks will do. If you had any practical experience, you'd know that.
But these wounds here, they look like...
He almost said puncture wounds, but that would have been absurd. Thewlis ignored him.
You can help here when you're done with the first cook. Now, come with me.
The crematorium rested behind another door, a low brick room stained dark with use. Its single defining feature was its furnace, a square metal face with a gaping, smoking mouth. An old conveyor belt jutted from the front like a rusted steel tongue. The furnace was cool now, but the smell wafting from it was still terrible. Burnt pine and old feet, shoe leather, and overcooked pork. Thewlis wasted no time in instructing his understudy. While Vaughn had no experience with cremation, it seemed easy enough. Not pleasant, but easy.
Remember the order. You turn it off, you scrub it down, you clean the tray. When the new bodies come in, you double-check for jewelry, watches, that sort of thing. You check the coal feed, and then you start to cook. You have any questions? Now's the time to ask, son.
Across the room, Vaughn noticed 2 iron hooks in one wall, a machete dangling between them. He wanted to ask what the hell it was for, but forced himself to stay on topic.
How long does the cook process take, Doctor?
She's old, runs about 3 hours, give or take. Once the body is in, you come back to me. Do you understand?
Yes, Doctor.
Are you gonna deviate from my instructions?
No, Dr. Thewlis.
Good. I'll bring the next one.
Thewlis came back with a corpse on a trolley, and Vaughn cranked the furnace to the highest setting. The fire blazed inside, the awful smell billowing out like dragon's breath. Vaughn saw the machine's newest victim was gray-haired, middle-aged, mostly intact, save for a missing hand and foot. He noticed morbidly that although one of the dead man's eyes remained closed, the other stared upwards, frozen in terror by the onset of rigor mortis. Once the body was on the conveyor, Thewlis went back to the morgue and returned with a bag, a papery black container with the symbol of a red tree on one side. Vaughn learned soon enough what the bag was. It was for parts. In this case, it was sealed with the hand and foot inside it, and whatever else had once been within the man, but was now without. When the cook started, Vaughn returned to the morgue and did what he was trained to do. He helped with analysis, determined cause of death, and matched pieces with their rightful owners. Tending to the furnace took more time than he expected, however, and it became clear the old doctor expected him to do most of the work. So as the hours waned, Vaughn returned to the crematorium time and again. He burned 2 bodies, then 3, then 4. According to Thewlis, the rest would be mostly bags. While Vaughn fed the latest remains into the cremulator, the machine that ground up the post-cooked bone chunks, the doctor ordered takeout from a local Chinese restaurant. By that time, Vaughn had been awake for almost 20 hours. It wasn't his first Jack Bauer routine, but the combination of post-exam stress and the nature of the disaster had drained him to the very soul. With the bones ground up, he slapped his butt into a nearby chair, wondering if he could catch a few winks before Thewlis returned. Then the doctor came banging through the door with another bag.
I'm not running a kindergarten, boy. Hurry up and get this one on the fire. Well, go on. Do as I say.
He swept from the room. Vaughn rubbed his eyes, wondering if he'd hurt his chances for a residency by trying to sleep. Then he wondered if he still cared. He shoved the bag down the belt, watching it creak and roll down the feed. Then all at once, he saw something. He couldn't say what it was exactly, but it looked like something moved inside it.
I'm hallucinating, imagining this. Deprived of sleep,
But the bag moved again, and then Vaughn was stepping forward, grabbing it and yanking it off the belt. He threw it on the floor and stomped the corners, smothering the fire with the heel of one red sneaker. A noise came from inside it, something like a moan. He fumbled for something sharp, his hands knocking pencils, jars, a half-eaten tray of beef lo mein. He saw the machete on the wall and grabbed it, then sliced through one corner with shaking, trembling hands. The black skin peeled away like plastic. A woman's face stared back at him. Smooth young skin, deep brown eyes, long dark hair that had been attractive once, but now hung in ragged strands. Her lips had turned blue from the cold.
Help me.
Vaughn dropped the machete and tore the bag away, his hands ripping at the dark, sticky lining. She pawed through with her left hand, and at first, Vaughn thought her right hand must be hurt. Then he froze. Her right arm wasn't injured. Her right arm was gone. The appendage ended at the bicep, a flat, flesh-colored stump sealed with thick blue thread. It looked as if someone had lopped it off and then surgically closed the wound. She began to pull herself forward, worming her way out of the bag. And then Vaughn suddenly understood why she had fit, why she had been so light when he had lifted her. Her legs were missing too, hacked off mid-thigh and stitched with the same blue thread.
Help me.
Vaughn fell backwards on his ass, staring.
Help me. Help me. Help me.
She crawled towards Vaughn's crotch, pushing herself to eye level. Instinctively, he threw his arms around her, his face burning with rage, frustration, helplessness. The girl was cut up, dissected, but alive somehow, preserved by the work of a monstrous surgeon. Whatever happened to her, she had been a girl once, a girl like his Julie. She even looked like her, a little.
Chadwick, you all right in there? I heard something.
Upon hearing his voice, the girl cowered, pushing herself into Vaughn's chest. She looked towards the door, then met his eyes, willing him to understand. At once, he did. Dr. William Thewlis wasn't just strange, wasn't just a little off. He was a freak, a murderer, a monster. Why else would the man want to burn someone alive? Why else would he dangle gory details in front of his understudy, laughing quietly behind his back?
I'm fine, Doctor. Just spill the cup. I'm cleaning it now.
You break anything, you're paying for it.
Vaughn turned to the girl, holding her out at arm's length. In that moment, he was suddenly aware of her nakedness, Her body was muscled and hairless, but filthy now, covered in a layer of grime as distracting as those ragged blue-threaded stumps. She might have been pretty once, even beautiful in a fashion. Now she was the picture of ruin, a symbol of torture and depravity.
It's going to be okay.
It sounded stupid, but what else could he say? Nothing about this girl was going to be okay ever again.
I'm going to get you out of here.
He couldn't walk past Thewlis carrying the girl, and he couldn't stay put either. Not when the doctor could come to check on him at any moment. The girl looked towards the machete, and after a moment's hesitation, Vaughn grabbed it off of the ground. His hands were shaking so badly, it took him 3 tries.
I can't do this. I'm not cut out for this. Do you understand? I can run, though. I can get help.
Staring into her deep brown eyes, however, he knew he couldn't leave her. He just couldn't.
Okay, I'll help you. Just you stay here.
When Vaughn entered the morgue, Dr. Thewlis was scribbling in his notepad, his back to the door. He half turned when he heard footsteps.
Oh, there you are. Come over here. I need to turn this one over.
Yes, Doctor.
Vaughn said, the machete rising of its own accord.
Hurry it up when I tell you to do something.
Vaughn brought the weapon down hard, striking the back of the doctor's neck with the handle. Thewlis collapsed, falling to the ground with a thump. Vaughn raised the machete again, ready to cut the man if he had to, but it wasn't necessary. A shudder worked its way through his body, and he let the weapon slip from his hand.
Fuck this place. Fuck this job. Fuck this hospital. Fuck this fucking town, man.
Back in the crematorium, the girl was watching the door, balancing herself on one good arm. When she saw Vaughn, she smiled with wonder and relief. Something else, too. Lust? Vaughn thought that was ridiculous, though she seemed to have no shame with respect to her body. The stumps of her legs splayed to him like a prom night harlot.
We're getting out of here. You and me, right now.
He scooped her up in his arms and took her back through the morgue, feeling to all the world like a knight in shining armor. He couldn't fix her, but he could help her. Surely he could do that. Surely his Julie would want him to do that. They stopped at the corner, and Vaughn set the girl down. Around the bend, Miles sat at his security desk, a pair of headphones on his head. Vaughn decided it would be impossible to sneak past, and a bad idea to ask for help. The man was armed, and if he was working with Thewlis, who knew what he would do? The elevator was right around the corner, though, and Vaughn's fingers traced the edge until he found the call button. When he pressed it, nothing happened.
What the hell?
He chanced to look. The button was there, but right beneath it, he saw a keyhole.
Nothing gets into this place. Nothing gets out. At least not without this.
The key. The doctor kept the key around his neck. It had to be used for all the elevators and doors on this level. Vaughn bent to the girl, taking her head in his hands.
What's your name?
She could only sob.
Help me.
More than anything, Vaughn wanted to wipe her eyes, to hold her, even to kiss her. Yes, she had been beautiful once. He could see it.
I'll be right back.
With a final glance, he ran towards the morgue, anxious to get the key and get the hell out. He banged through the door, skipping past the tables and rushing to the doctor's body. Only the body wasn't there. Thewlis had disappeared, right along with the key, right along with the machete. Then, out of nowhere, he heard a scream. Vaughn sprinted down the hall, and as he rounded the bend, his red sneakers skidded to a halt. The girl was no longer on the floor. She had pulled herself around the bend to the desk. She had pulled herself onto the desk, onto the unsuspecting back of Miles, the fat security guard. At first, it looked like she was kissing him, But then he saw her face. She was biting him, sucking on him, her teeth clamped to his neck. Her arm had closed around his throat, holding him in place with monstrous, supernatural strength. A second later, the man fell out of his chair and toppled to the floor, the girl riding him all the way down. She looked up and saw Vaughn then, her mouth a ghoul's mask of blood and chewed skin.
Help me! Help me! Help me!
Oh, Jesus.
Vaughn spun, but his feet slipped out from under him, slipped on the blood jetting from Miles' throbbing, pulsing neck, and he hit the floor hard, his head banging tile. Instantly, the girl jumped down from the desk and pulled herself towards him. She was fast with that one arm, faster than he ever would have imagined. He blinked, tried to get up, but the girl was already there, grabbing the doctor's gown and pulling herself over him. When she spoke, her voice was a pleading, needful interrogative.
Help me!
Vaughn tried to push off, but her grip was demanding. Her body was demanding, pressing itself down against him. He could feel the tips of her breasts, her nipples as hard as stones.
What the crazy bitch?
Miles moaned, rolling beneath the desk. He was holding his neck with one hand, flailing at his gun belt with the other. The girl ignored him, still staring at Vaughn.
Help me!
Get off me! Get off me, you freak!
Her mouth quivered, and when her lips parted, Vaughn saw her teeth had been filed to points, her canines like daggers. She snarled in rage and betrayal.
Help me!
Vaughn kicked, and the girl thing toppled off. But then she was scrambling towards him again, scrambling like a one-armed spider. Her hand struck out, clawing through his pants, his socks, his oh-so-important red Vans. He felt fire shoot through his calf, blood flecking into the air. She grabbed his slacks and threw herself over him, her teeth gnashing, chomping, snapping.
Get off!
A machete whistled downwards, bearing itself point first into the creature's back. It was Thewlis, standing over him like an avenging angel. Vaughn pushed away, and then the old doctor thrust a blade all the way down, all the way to the floor. The one-armed thing wailed, thrashing and moaning as the blade bisected its heart.
Get away from it! Goddamn faker, playing dead on my watch!
He yanked the machete out, then grabbed a hold of its ratty, stringy hair.
Help me!
Thewlis cut through its neck in one single vengeful stroke. The thing's head came off and lolled to the floor, its eyes blinking spastically in their sockets. Vaughn coughed.
What?
I think a thank you is in order.
He licked his lips.
Thank you.
God damn it, didn't I tell you to listen? What did I say?
Don't deviate.
That's right, you little shit. You could have killed us.
He smiled his strange, simpering smile.
Miles, you gonna live?
She bit my neck. Damn crazy.
You'll live.
He turned back to Vaughn.
I thought there was only one of them on that bus. I guess this here makes two. The other was a male, not a stuff. Thought this one here was a regular survivor, all cut up the way it was. It was alive when I found it, but it passed out. I listened for a heartbeat and couldn't find one. Guess I should have known there was never one there to begin with. I stitched it up, thought that was the end of it, but you had to be the hero, didn't you, boy? It got you good.
Vaughn could only stare. He felt too woozy to stand.
You puke yet? I know you didn't run. Guess you half listened.
When Vaughn didn't respond, Thewlis slapped him.
Christ, son, are you dead or what?
No, Doctor.
Good.
He paused, staring into the younger man's face.
One more thing. You ever hit me again,
I'll cut your arms off and throw you into the fire. You get one pass because you didn't know, but that's it. You got it?"
Vaughn nodded.
"Upstairs, I expect you to keep your mouth shut. If you don't, I'll deny everything, and you'll never work in this town again."
He helped the fat man to his feet.
"Come on, Miles. We'll get you fixed up."
Slowly, Vaughn managed to stand, clutching his arms to his chest. He was shivering in spite of his sweat. Thewlis used his key to call the elevator, and when it dinged, Vaughn rushed inside, hitting the button for the ground floor before the other two were all the way in. The doctor gave him a withering look, nudging in that last moment. As the doors closed, Vaughn stared back at the body on the ground, wanting, needing to know that it was dead. It twitched.
"Remember, boy, what stays below, stays below."
Who would have thought that an internship dealing with the dead would end up so lively? I think Dr. Thewlis and Vaughn are gonna be a good team, as long as Vaughn follows Doctor's orders. Otherwise, his career and himself might end up dead in a body bag. I hope you enjoy tonight's tale. Until the next one, won't you stay the night